without the effects.
Yeah, that might be the tag. Oh, man.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. Today, we're talking about Season 6, Episode 21, The Reckoning. How's this episode gonna go, you reckon?
Okay. Everybody some people really love it. And I think
true.
It's got some really strong elements. So it'll be interesting to talk it through. It's funny because right now, Keith, what I have to do, and I know that we have probably an hour of show before we get here, so I have time to do it, is I have to do the screenshots because I forgot to do that.
Oh, well, cramming mid-episode is definitely it's on par for the course, and as is having 45 minutes of me reading comments, gonna be a whole thing.
Well, when the show's good, I guess it is what it is, right?
I mean, look, it's my cold reading skills are tested, and I fail every single week. But that's what you're here for. Here on this Thursday morning, a little gloomy, extra gloomy if you have stocks. Luckily, I don't.
Yeah, right.
I have no retirement or savings. But yeah, no, not.
Feels
not
like
great
now.
start.
Feels like that was a choice.
Sure.
Now we can chalk it up to a prudent choice.
The vow of poverty is holding. But luckily I'll be in good company. Okay, so before we get into The Reckoning, we have to talk about last week's episode, His Way, in our comments from the patrons, or hails from the patrons. I never remember what that segment is called until we press the button. And so here is what you had to say. Jason Moe says, with stage directions, and I appreciate stage directions.
Yeah, that's great.
Please, always, to be read in the dulcet tones of Mr. James Darren. Hey, Bally's Vic Fontaine here. That's not really, but that's right. I'm gonna do like old-timey radio voice.
Yeah.
You know, the original Vic whistle? This episode was pure class, unlike that overrated back-of-the-page yesterday's news about pale moonlight. If this episode doesn't raise your temperature, you better check the obituary column because chances are you're in it. It gives me fever! From one light bulb to another, let me just say you fellas don't seem too dim. Stem bolts, never heard of them, but I'd give this episode 95 Nanooks of the North.
Okay. I probably would have preferred Jason to just read it at that juncture, but,
I think that's true of all of the comments.
Yeah.
I mean, would any of these comments not be improved by the actual writer reading them? Anyway, Brandon Giles says...
Did we miss the Vic whistle just sitting there?
We 100% missed Vic whistle.
Still dumb. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, no, that's a missed opportunity. We have to own that. We have
That's
to
on
own our failure there, not knowing that. So Brandon Giles says, I saw y'all sitting there with smoke between y'all, and I thought I was looking at Cheech and Chong. No, it's Cheech and Chong is all the way over there. This is just dweeb over here.
I tried to get Keith to smoke with me one time in New York when we were going to the opening of a show called something that had to do with bubbles. He
Slava Snow Show.
Politely declined.
That's not me, buddy. That's I'm the hall monitor of this podcast.
But
I
don't know what it is. I wish I could point to like a core memory to explain it, but I am fervently against peer pressure, so I would never do it.
And you never have, and that's much appreciated. Much appreciated, because I don't care for it either. So Brian from Video Game, excuse me, I'm still dying apparently. Brian from Video Game Drive-By says,
did you get a haircut, Keith?
I trimmed it, yeah. Look, I do not
put some pomade in there.
I have never gotten my hair cut. I have not gotten my hair cut by another human being since COVID.
Really?
I do it all myself for two reasons. One, I'm cheap. I'm lazy. I don't like spending the time. Also, autism, I do not care for the sensation of doing that. So, I do it myself.
Let me ask you a question off the cuff that you're going to really hate.
I love it.
Let's say in the next 3 to 6 months,
okay,
the old Vic whistle was getting taken out of the case. You know what I'm saying?
It seems very unlikely.
I'm
We're
just
already
saying-
into science fiction.
Just say what if, right? Do you think you'd go get a spiff up? A human cut?
I think any human who would want to engage with said Vic Whistle would have to understand the vessel the Vic Whistle is attached to. At this point, I'm so old. I'm look, here it is. Like, I'm not going to shine it up. I'm not going to pretend like I'm anything I'm not. Are you on board or you not? It's fine. I don't really care much either way.
All right.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. So, yeah.
Dude.
I'm not sure how that applies. Okay, so... Anyway, Brian from Video Game Drive-By. Aren't you supposed to be doing homework?
I think I did it.
Oh, wow. Nicely done.
Thanks, man.
Brian says, I'm so glad this episode exists. We needed a light heart palate cleanser after the back-to-back-to-back heavy banger episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I was not a fan of the Kiro. I just invented their romance name. Kiro Romance. Always thought Odo let his chance pass, and it wasn't fair to Kira to try to start something after all that happened. I see this behavior when he thought Kira was a hologram, and was testing the extremes of his behavior to get him out of his comfort zone, like a nervous teen pacing in the mirror or something. But I definitely can see how it comes off as a little uncomfortable. But on the flip side, my fiance was someone I missed out on once many years ago. And to be honest, this episode helped me realize I shouldn't miss out on a second chance just because I didn't step up the first time. So now I'm totally down for their relationship. Now I wish it had happened earlier in the show. Also, Mrs. Drive-By never watched an episode of Deep Space Nine, and she was engaged fully without context.
Wow.
She loved the watch-along, Mike.
Whoa!
Vic is an absolute bro, and I love him. I love the songs too. Rest in peace, James Darren.
100%.
95 self-aware stem bolts. Harry Pothead says, the big hit was stupid but hilarious. It was supposed to be stupid. To which I say, honestly, I had no idea what the tone of the big hit was. I didn't even know it was a comedy. So,
what's the big hit?
That was the
top movie last week?
The top movie.
Yeah, I've already forgotten once again.
With Avery in it. Yeah, I thought it was a drama or like a heist.
Oh,
Apparently
wait.
it's a comedy.
It's on Plex, I think.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I have to watch it. Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Scott B says, teeny tiny correction. Not the only person to make this correction. Bashir did not create Vic Fontaine. He was created by a rarely mentioned, never seen on screen holo programming legend, Phoenix, a friend of Bashir and the same programmer who created Bashir's secret agent program. Yeah, I didn't catch that or remember that, but thank you.
Phoenix Cage?
I thought so. I thought it might be. This guy is only ever mentioned in a handful of lines of dialogue and maybe 4 episodes across the show's entire run. They need to explain how they got their hands on a new advanced holo program. So I gotta make sure he gets his due. So, Felix, due.
Felix?
Felix, not Phoenix. Felix.
Oh, okay. Felix
Kevin
and Oscar.
Miles. That's right. Kevin Miles says, Keith, I too related with Odo. I could never talk to girls that I'm interested in without getting all tongue-tied and feeling foolish. Still feel that way. Through my first half of adulthood, I couldn't get a date in a calendar factory.
Well, nailed it.
Yeah, I'm right here now. You also mentioned that they wanted Frank Sinatra Jr. to play Vic, but he wanted to play an alien. That is true. Ira and some friends were in Vegas and went to a James Darren show, and Ira said he just found his Vic. 2 days later, the two later met to discuss the role, and Ira included some of the stories Mr. Darren told him into Vic's dialogue. Very cool. As for some of the Odo scenes coming across as creepy, you have to remember that Odo is new to this relationship game. At the dinner date with Kira, you could say he was overcompensating because he was just learning how to date. I believe that if he had known it was the real Kira, he would have been all thumbs and awkward. Yeah, I totally get that. I think Odo was like wearing his dad's shoes and sort of, stomping around, not really knowing what to do. Also, Kira did not seem to mind. That's true. She appeared to be enjoying herself until the end. I think she was angry with Vic and felt sorry for Odo, but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah.
I happen to have had the honor of meeting both Renee and James Darren at various conventions. I helped Darren set up his table in September 2001 in Vegas at a con. At the end of the show, I got a thanks, Pally, from him. I too saw Renee in Dance of the Vampires on Broadway. I thought it was great. One of the very few. I think anybody who actually saw that show, it's like, to see that show is to love that show. I don't know about love, but to see that show is to be obsessed with that show. I'm obsessed with that show. Always have been.
I didn't see it. Lestat I saw.
I saw Lestat 3 times.
There was a girl that I was seeing in Lestat.
Oh, really? You got that Vic whistle with the vampire teeth.
I like them pale, Keith.
Well, I'm pale enough for both of us. She can be whatever. Sorry, they continue. We met him at the stage door after the show and spoke for a few minutes, got our playbills signed. I miss seeing both of the gentlemen at cons. I give this 96 self-sealing stem bolts. Carl Fisher says Jimmy had a small resurgence thanks to Star Trek fans. And in 1999, he released an album called This One's From the Heart, and it had all the songs he used on Deep Space Nine. It must have been pretty confusing for Sam Goody and Tower Records to be bombarded by middle school and high school students like myself buying James Darren albums. Hilarious.
I loved Sam Goody, man.
Did we have one in Vermont? I don't really remember. Don't you demonetize us. Don't you dare. Ryan Chesley says, 90 self-sealing stem bolts. I love the Odo and Avery duet. I feel like you're being a little harsh on Odo. It doesn't feel like Odo's true self in the Hollow Suite, but it doesn't make it predatory. That's fair. Feel like we're losing the plot here trying to frame Odo in this light. I don't disagree with that.
I don't disagree, but I would kick back to, I don't think we were framing him in any sort of way. We were just mentioning that we were getting some ick feelings because of current context and stuff. I mean, it wasn't really trying to lay it at Odo's feet. And I've now said that about 3 times, so I will stop defending it.
Regardless, I like the chemistry between Odo and Kira and love this episode. Hibernation Pod says, I forgot I also had the sweatshirt, meaning the Batman sweatshirt that you had. I wore it into Disintegration. Before watching this podcast, I never truly saw the friend dynamic so early on between Odo and Quark. Personally, I would be far too unforgiving to ever be rooting for someone who dedicates their day job to bringing me down in the name of law and order, but that's just me. That's fair. Every time Keith says that he totally relates to the situation, I was like, yup, me too, i.e. Odo. From the self-sabotage to the awkward silences to the outright fleeing. I hate dancing too. For a moment in life, I cut loose and was even told by many I was a good dancer.
All right.
But that was another life. Cheers to Jen, Carnegie Hall. It's where it's at. 85 stem bolts. You know what? Actually, Mike, I'm gonna email you a picture. Speaking of dancing, it happens to be top of mind because I'm using it for a show that I'm working on, and I think you will find it hilarious. Everybody will, i.e. me and dancing. So I wish I could drop a file into the chat here, but I can't.
OBS, you mean?
Yeah. But we're gonna have to do it old school.
It is weird that you can't do that.
So, all right, I'm sending it to you so
no,
we can prove.
Definitely can. If you pop the chat out, there's next to send. There's an icon to attach a file.
Oh.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I see it. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna send it to you that way then.
Nice.
Because that'll just be fun and interesting. Look at us doing fun tech. Because especially at my own expense, it's worth taking the time. So I sent it to you.
Thanks, I got it.
All right. So I hate dancing. Doesn't mean I have not.
Did you send that to me to put it on the screen?
Yeah, put it on the screen.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that I have not been paid money.
Shall I let it go?
Professionally to dance. That is me in a production at the Full Monty.
Yes, let it go, buddy.
I do indeed make that face. when I dance.
Oh, that's
so
great.
You're
That's
welcome,
great.
everyone.
I have a little B-roll from... So, when I did it, I was playing, in this one production, I was playing this character, Reg, who's like he's auditioning for the troupe, and he does a silly dance and then falls on his eye. I get hired a lot because I pratfall.
Mhm.
But, equity shows, you can't record them or anything. So, there's just someone who's... they're like, somebody needs to see this. So, they're recording me doing that bit on the backstage pipe. It's pretty funny. I'll see if I can dig it up.
Ah, yes. We've got a lot of good footage shot from the wings of stuff.
Yeah.
The Mysterious Anne says, the watch-along for this was very fun. It was great to know I'm not the only one who gets super uncomfortable during scenes like the Odo-Kira holodeck date scene.
I know, we were so uncomfortable during that.
When I was a kid, I couldn't stand watching TV and movie scenes where people were making fools of themselves. I would leave the room or hide like it was a tension-building scene in a scary movie. I have much more tolerance for this as an adult, and now I have to beg the mysterious middle schoolers to watch anything with me that has any element of cringe. I think there's a stage of life where being embarrassed for some of us is the worst thing imaginable, and watching that on TV doesn't feel fun, funny, or enlightening. It's empathetically painful. I think that is very right.
I totally get it. Yep.
I don't think I've ever gotten out of that phase. As I've gotten older and lived through many forms of humiliation, it's not that I've gotten hardened or empathized less, it's just that I have more lived experience with making it through to the other side of humiliation, so I know what's possible. I still feel the anxiety, but I have a more overriding trust that I can hang in there with our heroes through the whole narrative arc. 90s TV went hard on using cringe and discomfort, mostly in sitcoms, but really across genres. Deep Space Nine is different, and I think this episode was pretty masterful in minimizing the painful parts and not doing damage to the characters while still taking us on an emotional ride. It could have been a disaster. It's been established that Kira hates the holodeck and does not want to be a hologram. We can debate holodeck ethics, but it's pretty clear she wouldn't want her image used for dating practice, and Odo knows that. Odo doesn't go into the holodeck and creates a practice Kira, though. Vic's role gives Odo a reason for getting swept up in the magic and deeper into a situation that compromises his ethics. The mysterious spouse compared Odo to Aladdin and Vic the genie. That's a really good insight there. Where was I? There we are. I think Vic is friendly and well-meaning like the Disney version, but it's a good analogy to the traditional genie stories, where the manipulation of magical beings gets out of hand and the mortals kind of get swept away. Kira knows that she and Odo have been manipulated by Vic, and that makes it possible for her and the audience to not be mad at Odo, and to just see the honesty of his wish to learn how to approach her. Dax has challenged Kira several times to have a more open mind when it comes to who is attractive and what gender roles can be in romance. Maybe Kira is the one who chases Odo down and initiates the relationship. Making Kira do that is a pretty fantastic moment and a big satisfying leap in her character arc. For me, 85 cringy, crooning, magical stem bolts. Just very insightful. What a great comment.
Always great.
YouTube viewer says, in my opinion, rom-coms are like horror movies. There are good ones and bad ones and very few in between. You can enjoy a bad rom-com or horror movie if you're in the right mindset. Also, I think super insightful. I think they're the flip side to the same genre. They're sort of like disposable, repeated stories that we all sort of go through. Sometimes they're fantastic, and then they really stick out, but if that's your jam, they're endlessly watchable. The number of horror movies I've seen that are bad, I just watch them anyway. That's a good point. I thought this movie checked a lot of boxes for rom-com cliches, but I give them a pass because the Star Trek writers don't have a lot of experience with this, and we needed a palate cleanser after the last 2 episodes. The next piece of this comment has been redacted, YouTube viewer, because we do not mention things in future episodes, including who we may see again or may not see again. That is a spoiler. I beg you, sir. I beg you, please, for the love of everything good, do not mention anything that happens in future episodes. Period. Thank you. Anyway, YouTube viewer continues. I give this episode 70 out of 100 will there or won't theys. I'd give it a higher rating, but all the deception gave me a little bit of ick. Also, there is an ongoing problem that is never fully answered about whether or not Vic is truly sentient. They clearly established that Dr. Moriarty in the EMH is on Voyager, but it's a little ambiguous here. The fan base is still divided over this question.
This is a conversation we will have not here, but I do think, and I don't think that YouTube was saying this, but I do think what makes certain genres the genre, right? The fun of them is the tropes, right? The tropes are what we are seeking, right?
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of the great ones are subversive to said tropes. I think that is when you get some really interesting stuff. But for the most part, the tropes is kind of, especially in rom-coms, right? And horror movies, the tropes is sort of what you're going for. Yes, the monster's moving slow and the hero is moving fast. And somehow the two still meet.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And it's like, I love rewatching the 80s, 90s slashers. The Jason, the Michael Myers, that kind of stuff. And I rewatch them over and over again. Not because any of the stories are any different.
Right.
I kind of don't want the story to be different. What I want to do is see the same tale told again and let me see your spin on each of these set pieces, which are part of the story.
I think today's sort of this decade's it used to be rom-coms in the theater, right? We're very sort of paint by number.
Right.
See Notting Hill as like a perfect example. Pretty Woman. Hallmark Christmas movies, right? It's become a genre of its own. Yeah, it's the same movie. Yes, we get it. It's the same movie. But that's the fun, right? Okay, we're going to wait till we need a high-power woman who's about to give up her career and check. Okay, she's going to meet a guy who works in some sort of Christmas industry and somehow makes a living doing it. Check.
Right.
So
are they going to kiss after ice skating, or is it line dancing, or is
there
whatever?
A quirky best friend couple? Yes. All right.
Yeah, and I find them unwatchable, but that's not a judgment. It's just a flavor. I'd rather see them decapitated, and then I'd watch it.
Whereas some other people, CEO Jen, who appreciates art and high art as well, it's like a comfortable blanket. She can't wait to just wrap in and watch.
Yeah, I just want to see the teenagers chopped to pieces. Yeah. That makes me feel like it's like a warm blanket, you know?
Yeah.
It's perfect. So JD says, Beaver!
I need to get her on the soundboard. I think it's earned its place.
I think we need it. Yeah. Jason is a believable Cena. We were talking about Jason Momoa's heel turn.
100%.
He said, I think he's quoting us, saying, "We all just speak in vaguely pretentious ways." It says it's wonderfully self-aware, and I identify with it too much. Speaking about our top song, holy crap, you had me so curious about that song, Too Close by Next, and I guarantee, Mike, you have heard parts of this song that have been sampled in other songs.
Baby, when we're grinding, I get so excited, you're making it hard for me.
Yep. This episode is unforgettable. Speaking about me talking about Voyager, which I don't remember what that one is about. No irony found at all. None. No. Just very, very dry, JD. Very, very dry. Crispy dry, my humor. Renee's character on Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of my favorite performances out of Trek. I'm just starting a rewatch of that.
I missed the last 5 seasons. Who did he play in that?
I don't remember. I can't believe it. So I look forward to getting back to it. I'm working my way through the first season, which is deeply problematic. But to their credit, they're like, I wouldn't watch this either, contemporaneously. So, anyway, if Keith Sinatra Jr. didn't die until 2016, not 1998, you were thinking of his dad. Yes, I was. Thank you for that. If you can get a video of Jen's performance at Carnegie, that would be cool. And I'm sure Jen's family is very understanding of your brosianship with Keith. Yeah. I am a piano player, and no one has ever asked to look at my hands until I tell them about the scar I have when half of my finger got ripped off. Yeah. I don't. I'll be quick, but I dislocated this one. This scar's from a hockey fight, and this finger does this naturally. So, piano player, these hands are
now, Keith,
dark
depending
times.
on who you ask.
How does this help anyone?
It could be a feature, not a bug.
I mean, I need someone to teach me, I guess, because
I'm sure ChatGPT has a few ideas.
I don't know if you're going then backwards. I don't think you're supposed to backhand
Save it for the post credits, all right?
Okay. If the AlamarEmmys mic thing never goes away, I might be okay with that. Oh, JD, you know it's never going anywhere.
That's it. The evolution of these things is really the beauty of the whole thing.
I almost found the clips, but we'll get it because we had a similar bumper from Out of Practice that went in a Mikey direction.
Yeah, that is one of the fun things after you do a podcast for like 5+ years or whatever it is. You listen to like the first few episodes, which is talk about cringe. You can barely sit through it. But you listen to the bumpers there, and then the evolution of them.
Yeah. It's really something. So
I think someone said it was really great. They were like, if you don't, you have to watch our stuff in sequence because there's so many inside jokes that it becomes completely incomprehensible at some point.
Yeah, no doubt. So if I remember before next episode, I'm going to pull up the sequence there because it's worth it. Because if you think that Mike's AlamarEmmys is cringe,
oof.
Just wait.
I still can't get through a department store or a store and see an oscillating fan and not shout,
Ben! Yeah. Yeah, but that's an inside joke right from the pilot. So
yeah, that's fair.
There we go. Anyway. This is such a great light episode. It's an easy 92 self-sealing stem bolts from me. And of course, speaking of the filthy tag that we should be ashamed of, he says, you literally included the rug burn for me. How nice, vomits. And that is how we close the hails from the patrons on the word vomits, which we earned. Let's talk about The Reckoning, which aired on April 29th, 1998. Oh, what a year 98 was. The top song. They were still rubbing on our earbuds.
Baby, when we're grinding, I get so excited. Ooh, you're making it hard for me. And Keith's wonky finger.
I'm so sorry.
You know, we were...
I'm so sorry. Hey, I sound like Jake in this episode.
There you go. I think that's how they did it. I would just like to point out in this moment, after we just assaulted our listeners with that we discovered while shooting toys this week that if you type in a random episode of Deep Space Nine into your Google, about 70% of the time, the first thing that comes up is us.
And then if you were to click into the middle of an episode...
I would like to apologize to Paramount Pictures, to Star Trek. I would like to apologize to Google. I would like to apologize to everyone who just clicked into this. And it's not going to get better.
Hey, Keith, what was the percentage of search results?
I thought, 60-70%. If you just type in Deep Space Nine episode title, the first video that comes up is us.
Almost the exact same percentage of each of our episodes that is about Star Trek.
I mean, 70%, about 70% we talk about Star Trek. Yeah, that seems fair. So obviously, in case you didn't pick it up immediately from that amazing rendition, that was Too Close by Next. The top movie was He Got Game, a Spike Lee film starring Denzel Washington. I don't think I've seen that. I've seen most of Spike Lee's.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure if we saw it, we'd probably recognize it.
Yeah, it's possible. Mike, what was on TV tonight?
ABC, Spin City, Dharma and Greg, Drew Carey Show, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, which was a TV show that I just remembered.
I remember. I saw a couple of... Nathan Fillion was on that.
Nathan Fillion. Chicago Hope over on CBS, along with Public Eye with Bryant Gumbel, which was a news magazine I think was trying to do a 60 Minutes type of...
Sure.
They were trying to backdoor on that. NBC, the aforementioned News Radio, airing an episode called 420, which...
Oh.
As apropos, Seinfeld had a rerun. Third Rock from the Sun, which I forgot how much I liked that show. Lithgow and his sort of prowess. And Law and Order was on, Keith. That's we had, Beverly Hills 90210, which I watched. And then let's see, on the WB. Oh yeah, WB had listen to this lineup on the WB. Smart Guy, which is about a childhood prodigy, if I remember. Sister, Tia and Tamara. I loved it. Watched every episode. The Wayans Brothers, loved that show as well. And the Steve Harvey Show, which I forgot as well.
Now, Sister transferred over from ABC. Is that right? Because wasn't it part of TGIF?
No, never. I don't.
Because I did not ever get the WB. Because, Vermont and living in the woods, we didn't get NBC, let alone WB. But I remember watching Sister.
Yeah, Keith. It debuted on April 1st, 1994 as part of TGIF and finished its run on the WB in 99, airing 119 episodes over 6 seasons.
I'm so proud of myself. Can't believe I knew that.
Jack Hay was in that. She was the mom.
Yeah, I vaguely remember. I don't remember anything about it. I just remember having seen it.
Sister. What kind of like that?
What was Voyager doing tonight? They were doing the episode Living Witness. Great episode. I think really cool, interesting thought experiment about how history is remembered and told. Did we have an evil Voyager? We might have. So The Reckoning was directed by Jesus Salvador Trevino, who last directed on Sons and Daughters. It has a teleplay by David Weddle and Bradley Thompson, and a story by Harry Worksman and Gabrielle G. Stanton, who were a prolific writing team, but this is the only Trek that they did. Lots of episodes of Grey's Anatomy, lots of stuff like that. I bet the residuals on Grey's Anatomy are great. All right, let's do some trivial trivia. Now, Keith, waste your time with trivial trivia. I feel like that wasn't the most enthusiastic question.
I think that was autopilot. I don't even remember deciding to do that.
With what? But now it makes sense. You have a reference point for the video.
Mm-hmm.
It's all coming together. All right. Excuse me. I still have a cough. So the trivial trivia, and I still don't have a cough button. I need to get a cough button. Got to figure out how to do that. Is there like a little USB thing I can get that will do that?
For sure.
Oh, all right. I gotta get one.
You have an iPad?
I do.
You can hook up you can get a free iPad version of Stream Deck, which is just basically a soundboard but for automation, and just like build in a mute to your audio.
And how do I work it into my computer, which is not a Mac?
It doesn't need to be a Mac. It gives you like a URL. It's all web based. It's pretty easy.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, I'm probably not going to do that. Sounds like too much work.
You can probably download like a widget too that'll do it, like a Windows.
Yeah,
widget.
I think I just need a widget. Because like my iPad is old now, so the battery sucks. I should probably hurry up and buy a new one right this very minute for the tariffs.
It's funny. I've been thinking about a lot of that stuff. Like that grill. I was like, I'm just gonna buy it.
It's too late now. Like cool. It's like should have bought it last month, which is why I did like buy so much stuff. But I don't need like a new iPad. I need like a used one because I'm still using.
We had actually just decided to buy a new car. We have a Honda that's a '96 that we own, but because Hondas can go for like 2 million miles, it runs great. And you've offered us quite a bit of money for it for a trade to something new, which we had discussed we were going to do. But I just told her today, I was like, I don't know that it's already showing up on car prices. So
it's a real bad time to buy a car.
So,
yeah,
we'll hold on to it. It still drives.
Yeah, I mean those like Hyundais, Toyotas.
It's nothing to do with the engine. The car itself, because it's so old, it's just like the rubber and all the like everything's just kind of disintegrating.
Right. It's all like cracking. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My parents had a Camry that we pushed to 300,000 miles, something like that, and it was just everything but the engine turned to dust.
Yeah.
All right. Where were we? Trivial trivia. Yeah. When shooting the battle between the Prophets and the Pah Wraiths, much of it consisted of Nana Visitor and Cyril Lofton staring at one another intently. And then the special effects were added to the scene later. Both Lofton and Visitor found it difficult to keep a straight face throughout filming. I imagine they did. According to Ira Stephen Bear, this show came out because the writers felt they had tapped into something interesting with the creation of the Pah Wraiths, and they wanted to explore it further. Our feeling after the assignment was that we had dealt with the Pah Wraiths way too easily. We thought there was more juice we could get out of them, but we were juggling a lot of balls in the air, and sometimes the balls don't drop for a long time. Yeah, my voice didn't change till I was like 8th grade. Bradley Thompson describes his and David Weddle's initial idea for the show as being quite simple. We were looking for the ultimate battle between good and evil. We thought, let's put a prophet up against a Pah Wraith and deal with some deep stuff. Then when they pitched the idea to the producers, they were told that a similar story had already been pitched by writing team Harry Worksman and Gabrielle Stanton. So the producers purchased the Worksman-Stanton idea, then assigned Thompson and Weddle to compose the script. Pitching ideas. Make some money.
Yeah, I love it.
Initially, Thompson and Weddle felt that the story should be handled very much like a horror movie. And they told Bear the direction they were heading in. He loved it and told them it's Godzilla vs. Mothra with a mummy movie opening. They took this to heart and wrote an elaborate opening sequence involving a Vedic discovering a casket hidden in a chamber within the walls of Valhalla. When he opens it, 2 entities escape, and the Vedic has a heart attack and dies. The entities then disappear into the ceiling, and the camera pans upward to reveal a large bird sitting on a wall looking down at the dead body. This opening was scrapped because it felt too much like a schlock horror-like. As Thompson explains, it was way too mummy movie-like. I don't like the bird element of it, but I would have loved to have had it's more of like an Indiana Jones sequence. Discovering it. I think that would have been a better opening, frankly. In the first few drafts of the scripts, Kira is possessed by the Prophet and Winn by the Pah Wraith, and their battle aboard Deep Space Nine was far more elaborate than seen in the finished episode. Weddle and Thompson wrote them as having a running battle all through the station, throwing fireballs at one another and completely destroying the promenade. The whole idea, however, became far too complicated from a logistical point of view, and Renee Echevarria was brought on board by Ira to try to smooth things out and simplify the script without losing the essence of the plot. Apparently, when Steve Oster first saw Thompson and Weddle's draft, he responded by proclaiming it would be a 15-day shoot. A normal shoot is 6 days.
Yeah.
It'd be a great movie, though. That'd be fun. Our guest stars this week are James Green as Coral, and, of course, Louise Fletcher as Kai Winn. Let me tell you who always wins. They always win with our hearts.
Yeah, I know that I'm going to have done this wrong, so I'm trying to make sure that I do it right this time.
Ah, okay.
Who's doing it?
It's working.
Brian Kimball Biersock, Peter Benke, Frank Rinch, Quarks Bar Yanva, Ryan Chesley, Andre, Romulan Shoulder Pad Enjoyer, Jamie Lubin, Jason Moe, Deborah, Joshua Cronin, Mike A, Andrew Hayes, Alan, and the Mysterious Warp's Big Gold Boot Shivs, Charles Babbage, John Kelly, Keith Blank, Harry Mothead, Antalthese, Carl Fisher, You're Making It Hard for Me, Alan Gurdon, Deborah Scott, Trent, The Chancellor, Brian.
What did Carl Fisher do to you?
Nicolay, YouTube viewer, Odo's Bucket, Lost Emu, Scotty B, Merritt Neath, 86 and Company, James Hubbard, Hibernation Pod, Miri Holcomb, Rogue Knight, JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell, Frank Rinch, Pat, Joshua, Kevin, Engineer Maynard, Jerome Gibson, DC, Chanel, Fedora, Ryan Caputo, Kevin Miles, Wyatt Eldridge, Lutz Krimmer, Bolian for Soup, Mr. Smokin' Dragon, Keith, there's more.
There sure is. Always with the second page first.
Casey, Brian, Jason, Joshua, The Mysterious Ann, Andrew Hayes, Worf's Big Old Boot Shivs, Colin Dagan, Quarks Bar, Peter Bank, CRM, Jennifer Massanova from the old days, Benke, Cloud Lover 69, Jorge Novoa, Charles Babbage, Kevin, Frank, Bryant, JD, Ryan, and Yanba. We love you, every single dang one of you. Also these people, Anton Thies, Merritt Neese, Harry Pothead, and Keith. Even better, Let me get the reverb off. I'm choking. I'm snorting. It's really fun over here. Even better, the patron who just joined last night, who didn't get on the screen, and I'm going to read their name now with just such gusto.
All right, let's hear that gusto. I can't wait.
Just a second here.
The top video that comes up for 70% of the episodes of Deep Space Nine.
We'd like to welcome to the pod, Keith, Lady Beyond the Wall. Lady Beyond the Wall, welcome.
Yes,
to the family.
welcome.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm probably unsubscribed by now, but thank you for being there for a hot second.
Yeah. Thanks, ladies. More ladies, please.
Yes, please. All right. Shall we go into our screening room?
Yeah, Keith. With what?
With what?
You're making it hard for me.
Wow.
It's disturbing.
Quite. Usually everything that comes out of that little box over there is disturbing. All right, so in our teaser, Sisko gives our team an update on the war. It's still a brutal slog, but the Romulans, having joined, is helping. They've kicked the Dominion out of the Bolian system.
Bolian!
Sisko announces that he, Jake, and Kira are headed to Bajor to see a new discovery in the Valhalla that they want the emissary to see. They all leave except for Kira and Odo, and they continue canoodling. They are still in love.
They're smitten, baby.
Totally smitten. They're in that like early first couple of weeks of dating where it's like...
She's like, well, if you got nothing going on for dinner, give me a Valhalla. See what I did there?
I did.
You didn't see it? Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Noted. So,
see at Vic's. You think they like go to Vic's all the time?
I mean, it's sort of their place now, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like that dive bar you met in or whatever. Yeah. So, we head to Bajor and into the cave set. A monk takes them through a whole new series of tunnels that they've dug since Sisko was there last. Jake is a little bored and annoyed. And I think, like, Jake's being annoyed about this feels a little juvenile for him at this age.
Mm-hmm.
But we learn that his concern is that his father's taking being emissary.
Well, the last time we were
seriously.
in the cave sets looking at Bajoran artifacts, things didn't go well either. So
No, and that's like, it is understandable that Jake is concerned, and he talks about it a little bit later, that like this being emissary has not been without consequences for his dad.
it's like going to Christopher Street to see somebody sing. It's gonna take forever. You're always there too late. One of your
Yep.
friends is gonna get drunk.
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
they're gonna say
I
it's
try
2
not-
drinks, but really you end up spending like $85.
Well, those 2 drinks are $85.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're in a cabaret. That's
Yeah.
how this works. Yeah, I try not to go below 14th Street as a rule.
I'm with you.
It gets confusing down there. Again, my autism. I like the grid. I like the grid. Anytime it goes below it, it's just weird. I don't.
Do you know what
understand
I
what's
was watching a video that was showing us some major differences between New York and Philadelphia, and what Philadelphia did that's better than New York, although New York stole the grid system from Philadelphia, they didn't put the back alleyways, and because of that, New York has their trash straight up on the street in the front, whereas Philadelphia just has it in the alleys in the back.
happening. Yeah, they sure do. I was on Canal Street last week doing a recording, and it was like,
Trash.
it's kind of trashy. Yeah. Anyway,
Not in the cave set. No
the-
trash down there.
no, that's true. The monk shows them another set. There are apparently many colonies of feral cats living in it. So no trash, but cat poop.
Yeah, that's cool.
The monk shows them another set of ruins that were built 10,000 years before Valhalla, and they built the city on top of it. I love archaeological digs like this, where like you find stuff on top of other stuff. My uncle and aunt restored a villa in Italy, way out in the middle of in the hillsides in Tuscany, And as they were rebuilding the villa, because it had been basically fallen down, it was hit in World War II, and it was whatever. As they dug down, they found older and older versions of it, and they found that it was over 2,000 years old.
Wow.
Like the initial building was built like pre-Christ, which is crazy cool. We don't have that in the States. Not 10,000 years. So they take them further down to discover an ancient tablet, which is not 10,000 years, it is 30,000 years old. And they examine the inscription, and the main one says, "Welcome, emissary." That's fun. Sisko is thrown into Prophet World. The Sisko has come. The circle is complete. The reckoning must begin. The reckoning. Much will depend on the Sisko. He is corporeal, limited. He is the Sisko. He will not waver. He is of Bajor. He will bring the reckoning. What do you expect of me? It will be the end, or the beginning. I don't understand. The Sisko will know. Then Sisko is thrown into a wall and knocked unconscious. Poor Sisko's stunt guy was thrown into and yanked back all over this show.
It was a pretty cool stunt too.
Yeah, especially the second one. The second one's fantastic. But yeah, no, Sisko takes a beating. And of course, we're thrown into Prophet World for the first time, not with an orb or not in the wormhole. Reckoning, that doesn't sound good. And it's never something you want to hear. So in Act 1, Sisko wakes up and decides to take the tablet to Deep Space Nine to translate it as quickly as possible. Dax is set to the task of figuring it out, and she has no idea. Later, Sisko is headed to a Bajoran service. Does he go to services regularly now? That's interesting. I don't think we've seen Sisko independently going to a Bajoran service, but it seems implied here that he did regularly. Is that what you took to?
I didn't get that it was regular. I thought he was going for counsel on this kind of situation, but I guess it could be.
Yeah, but it seemed like it was like a public service. I don't know. Later, Sisko, so he's headed to it, but then he gets some bad news from Worf. Kai Winn is coming. And it turns out she's come all this way because she's pissed that Sisko took the artifact. And she arrives and says, "You've removed an artifact from the archaeological site without consulting the Vedic Assembly." I meant no respect. You can understand why we would be sensitive to such matters. During the occupation, the Cardassians plundered Bajor's historical treasures as if it was their right. I never imagined you would behave in the same manner. I think she kind of has a point.
Yeah, a lot of people on the stream agrees with that, so I get it.
It's like, that was pretty, it's certainly not very Starfleet. I get it, he's the emissary, he's got a vibe, and actually, this is maybe the first decision where we wonder about Sisko's agency, because he was pulled to destroy it later. That wasn't necessarily in his control. That was some sort of a prophet-y sort of a motive happening there.
Yeah, my first thought, and taking sort of the ethics away from it and sort of the political struggle of it away, just based on that question of agency, my first thought was, well, why don't you just 3D scan it, right? Which Dax brings up later in the episode.
Totally.
She should have brought it up earlier, actually, I think, for plot reasons. But he doesn't kick back that it's about a vibe. But from the very beginning, my feeling was he's being compelled in this. Well, that's because, especially when you get to, if you were to go buy in 100% on this storyline, right? The Bajoran prophets, prophecy. My understanding of prophecy is sort of predestination, right? Prophecy is prophecy. It is the steps are set out. So it doesn't feel like he has a ton of agency here.
Well, and he says he believes this is the will of the prophets. So he got it in his head that the prophets want him to do this. Now, of course, how many things in all of human history have people said was the will of whatever, in various genocides and such. But it's interesting. Hard to know, but in this case, we do know the prophets are directly speaking to Sisko and telling him to do stuff. So, maybe the vibe he's getting is accurate. But Winn says, "Forgive me, I didn't realize that the prophets told you to bring the relic here." They didn't, not in so many words. I see, then what exactly did they say? It's difficult to explain, the prophets aren't always clear. And we get something interesting here from Winn. Since they have never spoken to me, I'll have to take your word for it. And we're going to reinforce this later, and I think they've addressed it a little bit before, but Winn has never had direct connection with the prophets, which is interesting.
What I kind of love about this episode and sort of where we are with this storyline, as like interesting as I think Ben's and important as Ben's interaction with the prophets and his role is, the Kai's conflict is really interesting to me, because whereas initially she was sort of painted as all evil all the time, I do think her faith is strong. I do think she has total belief in the prophets, but that wrestling with her own sort of ego and desire for power is really fascinating to watch, because it adds all these colors, a lot of ambiguity, and all of those things are very furtive for discussion. It's much more interesting than her just being bad, and we'll talk about it at the end. I think there is no correct answer. I think it's amalgamation of answers.
She's really, really complicated. And her defining character flaw is her ego overrides her good intentions. And she, there are times where she's allowed that to happen pretty directly when she tried to take over Bajor, and times where it seems like her faith is real, but her ego sometimes is constantly wrestling with it. It's a great character. It's a really interesting character. So later, Dax and Sisko discuss. Apparently, Winn has launched an official protest with Starfleet, and they told him to give it back. And we restack Starfleet's discomfort with Sisko being the emissary and Sisko's embracing it after being reluctant for so long. Dax reminds us of the penance that they said he was going to have to pay of Sisko after kicking the Dominion out of the wormhole. And Sisko says, yeah, but they have listened. They saved Bajor and the rest of the Alpha Quadrant, and now they're asking me for something in return. I don't know what it is yet, and I'm not going to return the tablet until I do. It's the key. I can feel it. Again, agency. It's a feeling he's doing.
Oh, Keith, may I just jump back in?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to go back in time here because I'm now making sense. Lady Beyond the Wall, our new patron.
Yes.
I'm getting likes on the watch-alongs for DS9 106, 109, 112. So we are going through the way back machine. So congrats.
Awesome. What a fun adventure that must be.
Yeah. That was back when I was posting. I had to go through all kinds of hoops to get them posted, but
we're getting more streamlined.
Yeah, lady, it gets easier. I think season 2 we start posting direct on Patreon. So. Yeah.
Our first few episodes were a little rough tech-wise.
Yeah. I'm just
that was my
watch-alongs. Yeah.
It wasn't the watch-along. It was our everyone who watches our pilot to find out if we're good, and our tech setup for that was bad.
Well.
Anyway.
Yeah. We are not close to each other.
We were just making out during the entire pilot.
Oh, that's when we were doing green screen and stuff.
Yeah, we were doing. Yeah, we were keying.
We were melting computers left and right.
That end, I had to record locally, send you the video with the green screen, which you keyed out and layered in later. What a nightmare.
What a nightmare, yeah.
Nobody cares.
Nope.
Nobody cares. Nope. Then Dax translates the tablet, and it says, "The time of reckoning is at hand. The prophets will weep, and their sorrow will consume the gateway to the temple.
Please send the DNC $5.
What does that have to do?
I'm just saying, every time I think I get an important email, no, it's just somebody in all caps asking me for money.
Yeah, well, get off your butts. Yeah. I'll send you some money when you do. Dax says, "Tell me I'm wrong, but isn't the gateway to the temple Deep Space Nine?" So in Act 2, Odo, Bashir, Worf, and Quark discuss the prophecy, making everybody nervous. Quark declares happy hour forever. Then the station shakes. The wormhole is acting strangely. Which I'm going to say something very, very childish, but it just made me laugh a little bit. The wormhole kind of operating like a hole of another kind.
Yeah, it's farting.
When it opens and then everything shakes.
Yeah, it's like farting. It's nervous.
That's what
It's
I'm saying.
feeling a little nervous. It's like it ate some bad Chipotle, so that Pah Wraith is rumbling.
So, okay, children, every time you watch this episode, every time the ship shakes, thanks for... All right, I think I deserve that. Anyway, later, Odo watches Kira eat as they chat about the reckoning. It says, it seems to me, if the prophets want the Bajoran people to follow a given path, they should provide more specific directions.
Kira needs some protein up on that plate, by the way. It's a lot of fruit.
A lot of fruit. Well, it's part of the it's a joke from later, coming later, so. But, yeah. I could really eat that plate, though. It looks really good.
It looks good fruit. It's easier to eat on camera fruit, for sure.
For sure. But, of course, Odo, this is a comment about pretty much all prophecy and all religion. You could be a little more specific, but that's not how it works. Depending on how you feel about that, for lots of different reasons. Kira says it doesn't work that way. Maybe it should. The Kai said you lacked faith. And Odo says, and you would agree. I don't know how people make it through the day without it. And Odo says, we manage. But besides, I have faith in some things, such as you. And I think it's such a cute, short little couplet there about a couple where one of them has a deep faith and one of them does not. And how do you navigate that? And, both looking at each other saying, I don't quite understand how you operate the other way. And I've certainly been in couples like that. And I think but what they're mapping out here is that you can have respect for each other, even if you have fundamentally different ways of viewing the world and the universe. And I think it's one of the health. I think, honestly, this episode does more for the health of Odo and Kira's relationship than anything we've seen here, with that deep respect for each other, even if they don't share, Odo is not someone of faith, and Kira is, but they have respect for each other, and I think that's really healthy. I like that. So Kai Winn and Sisko have a meeting where Winn tells him that there have been a series of natural disasters on Bajor, which is related to the wormhole farting. And Winn says, tell me, do your sensors have an explanation for the instability itself? No? Then I'll give you one. You've angered the prophets by taking the tablet from Bajor. And as the spiritual leader of Bajor, of the Bajoran people, I'm asking you to return it. Sisko says, and as the emissary of the prophets, I'm asking you to give me more time to study it. I believe it's the will of the prophets. Interesting. But she has gotten Shakar to agree with her and formally demand its return, so Sisko is forced to acquiesce. He goes to Dax to tell her the news. She's got more, and she's like, okay, fine, I'll use the scan of it, use the 3D scan of it. And this is where, practically, that's all they need to translate it is a picture. Mm-hmm. But Sisko knows that, there's ghost goo inside.
Yeah, where it's sort of like the one true ring, right? He can't explain it, but there's a compelling factor that's...
Right. So, vibes. Again, this is another episode about faith. And it's really complicated. And I think it's... I'm not somebody of faith, but I imagine for people of faith, they would find this respectfully treated.
Yeah, but at the same time, so forget the agency of it. It's hard to sort of, because it's fictional, it's hard to really understand the sort of hierarchy of the emissary, because it seems like it's above all of the cardinals, like it's the Pope to the cardinals analogy, but at the same time, the Pope has to be Catholic, right? So it's not he's not Bajoran, does not share the faith. He also can be, You'd think they'd give him the, like, just because of a couple farts, right? They're compelling him. They can just, there's paperwork that can make him do what they want. They can compel him. So I don't know. It's different.
I think this is where you have competing interests, right? Because Sisko has to give it back because of his job at Starfleet. He's not giving it back because he's the emissary. He's giving it back because he's a Starfleet captain. And also they really want to zoom out. You know, I think the emissary spiritually is above all things, including the Kai. But you're right, the Pope has to be Catholic, except for when there's go to Jesus, right? He created a religion of Christianity, but he was not a Christian. So I don't know, like it's.
I can't wait till AI crawls this show and just takes Keith out of context, going, "Go to Jesus."
Oh, I got a lot more things to be worried about taken out of context than that statement. Trust me. So, anyway, Dax has got more translated. More suffering is coming.
Can you hear that?
No, what's happening over
some
there?
high C's on the CEO Jen of it all.
Oh, what's she auditioning? Oh, or is she doing this for the concert?
Yeah, she's also, like, her and Aaron Tveit are doing, they're doing like a version of Galileo by the Indigo Girls.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just her, but she's singing in the ensemble, whatever.
Oh, that's fun.
I don't actually know what to expect, but now I do a bit.
Yeah, it's up there.
My wormhole, the house wormhole, is shaking.
Your wormhole just pucker a little bit, wondering what's happening. All right. Anyway,
Descant Soprano shakes me to my core.
There it is. I was in a fantasy baseball league with Aaron once. Anyway, so
how do you say his last name? I don't know. Tveit? Tveit.
I think it's Tveit. I always said Tveit because I'm pretentious, but unclear. Anyway,
what to do to die Tveit?
We need this episode's a mess. So she's translated more suffering is coming, but the rest is damaged. Then the wormhole shakes the station again. Who knows what it ate? On ops, Kira gives an update from Martok, then checks in on her friend. They discuss how annoying Winn is. Sisko says, maybe I should have consulted her before I brought the artifact to the station. Kira says she would have tried to stop you. I guess that's why I didn't ask her. All true. You probably should have anyway. And Kira says, in a way, I feel sorry for her. She spends her whole life in the service of the prophets. And then one day, after all the years of personal sacrifice and commitment, she's given her reward. She's elected Kai. It should have been the greatest moment of her life. But, Sisko says, my being emissary spoiled it for her. The Kai was always going to be the spiritual leader of Bajor. But Winn has to share that role with you. And that makes matters worse. And what makes matters worse is you're an outsider, a non-Bajoran. That's something she'll never forgive you for. Mm-hmm. She's jealous of you and your relationship with the prophets. And I think that's such a good distillation of what Winn's problem is. And this is where, like, her faith and her ego are constantly at war. She does not want to share the spotlight. She wants to be at the top of the pyramid. And, you know, her xenophobia a little bit, not liking a non-Bajoran to be the top of the faith is part of it, and just not wanting to share. I think it does not speak well of her, but it also is very human. But Kira continues, to be honest, I'm a little envious myself. Why? You speak to the prophets. They listen to you. It's a rare gift. And Sisko says, it's nothing I asked for. And Kira says, I suppose that's why I don't resent you, but the Kai does. I'll keep that in mind. Great piece of dialogue. You know, this is all really kind of deep and really interesting here, which I really do enjoy. So later, Kira talks to Winn at the window, and they have their usual sparring conversation in a less trimmed down conversation in the script. Winn, that did not make it into air, Winn guilts Kira for not going to services every day. The wormhole keeps shaking the station, and Jake goes to visit his dad in the office. He's worried about his father. And he says, twice now, Twice in a year, Dr. Bashir's called me down to the infirmary to tell me something is wrong with you. And there you were, lying unconscious in a biobed, having visions or something. There was nothing I could do except stand there and wonder if you were ever going to wake up. I know it wasn't easy. And he says, I don't want it to happen again. Sisko again says, I never asked to be the emissary. But for better or worse, that's what I am. And then we talk about what they cut from the script, but they added to the script this last line, except for being a dad.
Which is excellent, because what he doesn't talk or even really, and I love when Sisko, who is sort of a master sort of chess player in many ways, at least at fast chess, right? He's really good when those decisions are thrust upon him. He's talking about all of the sacrifices and the risk that he is assuming in this emissary thing. But he's not weighing what if and when his Jake gets pulled in, because then there's direct conflict between his fatherhood and this mission.
I mean, everybody is wearing a lot of hats, but I don't think any... Just quickly running through series, I don't think there's any character on all of Star Trek that has as many conflicting roles and hats as Sisko. Mm-hmm. And how complex that is. You know, he's a Starfleet officer, he's a father, he's an emissary. And those three things are frequently in opposition to each other in terms of what the right call is. So nobody makes more difficult decisions than Sisko does. Because, like, Janeway makes a lot of really difficult decisions, but she has one master, right? Mm-hmm. She has one objective, and she's trying to figure out what the right way to achieve that objective is. And sometimes that's a really hard decision. But Sisko has 3 different objectives, and that's a lot to navigate. I think it makes him such a fascinating character. So later that night, Sisko is unable to sleep. He goes to the tablet, and he is driven by some instinct he can't understand. And he yells and he smashes it into a pillar. Glad they got that shot, because I don't know how many of those they had. Then out of the rubble, 2 energy vortexes, one blue and one red, fly out and through the ceiling. So now we know he needed to have the tablet here because we got flashy lights. I almost said that like Trump. Flashy lights! So in Act 3, Sisko explains what happened to Odo and Kira. And Dax reasonably says, I get urges all the time, but I don't act on them. But she says, I'm not reading any residual energy signatures. Then the room shakes again, and there is a station-wide power drain. And Dax says, Benjamin, you're not getting another urge, are you? No, I've done what I needed to. I know this is going to sound strange, but I think the prophets wanted me to shatter the tablet. Again, agency. And Dax says, try explaining that to Kai Winn. Well, he does, and she's pissed. And predictably and understandably.
Yeah, again, man, come on.
Not having access to whatever feeling Sisko had. And like it also for Winn, like, she's forced to trust the emissary, right? But she's forced to trust that whatever he's doing is the right thing to do. But 2 things. One, they're adversaries. They hate each other. Mm-hmm. So every time she trusts him, she's having to overcome the fact that, like, they are enemies. Just flat out enemies. So it's a big leap of faith for her to trust him in that context. But also, and this sort of gets to the element of faith as well, she does not have direct contact with the prophets. So the very idea that he is the emissary is sort of have to be taken on faith too. Because they didn't tell her. He said they did.
Right.
And so, like, there's... I don't remember exactly, like, what proved him to be the emissary to her. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on there. So Sisko says, you and I haven't always seen eye to eye, but we have one thing in common. We both believe the prophets have a plan for Bajor. But sometimes it isn't easy to see the path they've laid out for us. Right now, I can't say what they want from me, but I'm willing to take a leap of faith, and I believe that they're guiding me. I'm asking you to take that leap with me. And Winn says, there's no need for a leap of faith, emissary. The prophets have made themselves quite clear. 2/3 of the Rakantha wheat harvest have been destroyed by floods. Earthquakes have devastated the Kendra province and leaving hundreds homeless. Bajorans are suffering because of you. They're paying the price for your act of sacrilege. And from her point of view, and I get it. There's another power drain, and Odo says, you need to come to the promenade. And this is where we discover a possessed Kira standing in the door of the shrine, shooting lightning out of her hands.
Are you the Keymaster?
She steps. What's that?
Are you the Keymaster?
Well, yeah. The rest of the episode is going to be that joke.
Oh, cool.
So she steps forward, and things explode all around her. And she says, "You are the Sisko." Sisko says, "Keep your hands to your weapons. It's a prophet. Why have you taken this woman's body?" And the prophet says, "This vessel is willing. The reckoning, it is time. There is no Kira, only Zool."
Cool. We made the same jokes.
Yeah, we sure did. No surprises there. So in Act 4, the Kira prophet says she awaits the Coast Emojin, the evil one, a Pah Wraith banished from the Celestial Temple. You're saying a Pah Wraith will take corporeal form as well? The battle will be joined. So we're about to have a giant battle between angels and demons, and it will either bring 1,000 years of peace to Bajor or ruin. So, Sisko says to the prophet, "What do you want from me? Am I supposed to help you in some way?" And she says, "The Sisko has completed his task." So Winn tries to talk to her, but she is ignored. Again, Winn does not get to speak to the prophets, even when they're in corporeal form. And this is immensely painful for Kai, who continues to be shut out. Sisko decides to evacuate the station. This battle could destroy it. But Dax has an idea. She's got an escape hatch to push the wormhole aliens off of the station using chronoton radiation. They could ramp it up slowly to force them out and not kill them. Remember we tried to do this before when, who was it that tried to, was it fake Bashir tried to kill the prophets? I don't remember. Anyway, Worf, not a fan of blowing up the station. He says, Deep Space Nine is critical to the defense of the Federation. You can't risk allowing it to be destroyed. And Sisko says, when the Dominion fleet was about to come through the wormhole, I asked the prophets for help. They gave it to me. Now they're asking for my help. They need to fight this battle here, now. I'm not going to jeopardize my crew, but I'm going to stand in any way. I'm not going to stand in the way of the prophets either. Bashir asks sensibly, but what if the prophets lose? Are you willing to sacrifice Kira? The prophets said she was willing to be their instrument. And you believe that? And Odo steps in and says, I do. I know how important her faith is to her. I have no doubt she'd allow the prophets to use her as their instrument. Again, Odo's respect here. So later, Odo and Worf supervise the evacuation. Worf thinks Odo should not have supported abandoning the station. And we find out that a group of Bajorans are refusing to leave because Winn is leading a group in prayer. Sisko talks her into making them leave, but they are both going to stay. Winn says, Congratulations, emissary. Thanks to you, the prophet's victory is at hand. I hope you're right. Where's your faith, emissary? You don't believe that the evil one will be victorious, do you? Rest assured, the golden age is upon us. The prophets and the people will be as one. Think of it. There'll be no need for Vedics or Kais or even emissaries. We don't know how important this line is yet. But from her point of view, if this goes through, she's out of a job and loses her position as Kai, which is I don't think anybody else has said that, but she certainly believes that.
Yeah, well, you don't know what paradise is going to be until you get there, right?
That's true. And I guess if you're like in paradise, you don't need spiritual guidance in heaven.
I don't know, I'm sure I've told the story a few times, but I had a friend who was a Jehovah's Witness and was trying to like convince me that I wanted to do that.
Sure.
And kept selling me on the heaven, which was like, when everybody else is dead, we come back, we all get like a plot of land that we farm and till, and just it's that for eternity. And I was like, okay, but like, I don't know if I'd like want to work in heaven. I don't know if like mow the lawn. That doesn't sound cool. That's the end of my story. That's what my point is. My point is that, you know, one man's heaven is another man's weekend chore.
What you're saying is you are too lazy even for heaven?
Well, for that heaven.
Your heaven does not include chores.
You got a square mile of land. Yeah, but how fast is the Wi-Fi?
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I need to know.
Can we still podcast?
Right, you know, yeah, like there'll be a lot to talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Important questions. Well, you know, but in heaven, like, do they keep making Star Trek in exactly the flavor that you want it?
Right.
There we go. Better yet, I just get to write it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, then Kira Zul announces that the Kostamojan has chosen its vessel. And we find out, it's Jake. So in Act 5, the showdown has begun. Kira and Jake face off. The only other people there are Kai Winn and Sisko. Ben offers to take his son's place, as you would imagine he would. But the Keymaster says no, and throws Sisko across the promenade again, which is I went back and watched it a couple of times. It's a very impressive yank back stunt.
For sure.
Like, that was intense. They like yanked it back 20, 30 feet. So Kira and Jake then shoot fire at each other. Blue for the Prophets and red for the Pah Wraiths. And they have a Harry Potter wand battle-esque push-pull of fire streams. But they did it first. So Harry Potter had a Deep Space Nine push-pull of fire streams. And I thought the effects here hold up remarkably well.
It's pretty cool. I think the makeup is even better. Like Sirik's makeup is really cool.
The makeup is good. The contacts are good. Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly the fire and this, that, the other thing, and then incorporating the practical sparks and stuff. I thought it looks good.
Yeah,
pretty.
I mean, I guess I could have hoped for like a little bit more something, right? Is there a middle ground? Like, okay, we can't be running all over like throwing wands and doing battles, but also like just standing there and growling. Is there a middle ground?
No, for sure. I would have liked the more elaborate, higher budget version of this episode that they started off with. Like, I think you're right. You know, they try to show some consequences for the promenade. They blow up stuff a little bit. There's some sparks, but I would love to see it be much more destructive.
Also, the stakes seemed a little muddy to me. Like, I'm sure they clarified it, but to be fair, usually I try to go back and watch a second time. I really only watched this once, so I might have missed a bit. But is it guaranteed that they're both going to die? Or just one of them's going to die, like the actual people they're inhabiting? Or do we know the stakes?
We don't know. You know, we certainly saw.
And did they say what the stakes were? Should we not finish the battle? Does the Pah Wraith just go away and then come back again another day?
We don't know that either.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened. You know, so obviously we're going to get to it. The battle is interrupted, so we don't know what that means.
Like, we didn't even discuss that, right? When we were talking about what we should do and or the plan to push them out, is the reason we chose not to do that because it posed too much risk to the station, or because we just wanted to see this play through? We wanted to get to Eden.
Yeah, so everybody wanted to push him out so as not to destroy the station. I think Sisko and Wynn's point is, this is prophesized, this must play out. Like, and if it does, then good things for Bajor, and having faith that the good guy's gonna win. And Sisko mentions he has faith that they're not going to harm Jake. Based on, who knows? He just sort of, he's got the vibe. And hard to know. I mean, and again, like, Winn's intervention here, because the prophets have, the time is not linear, was Winn intervening the actual plan? Did Winn intervening interrupt the actual plan? Don't know. It's interesting. So
did they use her ambition as a tool to get to where they were going?
Right. And because we have two gods here, we have the Pah Wraiths and the prophets, you have two godlike powers that may have overlapping omnipotence. And so they might not know how this is going to play out, because neither side can control the other side. Who knows? Yes, a lot of farting in this episode. So, things start exploding, and both Jake and Kira are taking battle damage. Dax comes in and reminds Sisko that, hey, we can turn on the chronoton thing whenever we want, kick him out. But despite his son being in danger, Sisko knows this needs to play out. He trusts that the prophets will protect him. Dax says that the energy building up is going to destroy the station, but Sisko refuses to leave. Winn and Dax peace out of the promenade. It's time to evacuate everyone else. And on their way out, they stumble across some civilians, including children, which makes them go, who the hell didn't evacuate their children yet? Wormhole! I don't think it's a wormhole. I think
just bad
terrible
parenting.
Parents.
Yeah.
It's just terrible parents. That's if that were a wormhole and not just a thing that existed, man, this world wouldn't have nearly as many problems. But Dax, of course, rescues the kids, and Winn slips away and disappears for reasons we don't know why yet. The battle continues, and Kira prophets are about to win, but then they both scream. Kai Winn has turned on the chronoton particles. Winn did, kicking both of the prophets and the Pah Wraiths out of their vessels. Kira and Jake collapse, and Sisko runs to his son. Later, folks have returned. Kira is okay, but Jake is still in the infirmary. He's gonna be alright, but he took a beating. And Sisko goes to talk to him. He says, Jake, I want to try to explain what happened. I'm not sure I can. You don't have to explain. The Pah Wraith was inside me. I could feel its hatred, and I knew no matter what, it couldn't be allowed to win, even if it meant I had to die. You did the right thing. Interesting. So Jake now has a completely different perspective on this too. And it's Jake maturing. So later, Odo and Kira talk. Kira doesn't know why the prophets chose her, and she appreciates the fact that Odo respected her beliefs. As I mentioned before, really important for that relationship. Then she goes to escort the Kai off the station. And Winn says, I prevented the destruction of this station. I saved the emissary's life and the life of his son. Kira says, don't pretend you did it for the captain. I did it for Bajor. If you hadn't heard, the floodwaters have receded and the earthquakes have stopped. Kira says, you defied the will of the prophets, and you did it because you couldn't stand the fact that a human, an infidel, had a stronger faith than you. The emissary was willing to sacrifice his own son to serve the prophets. My faith is as pure as the emissary's. I think you're confusing faith with ambition. I'm not confusing anything, child. You are. The prophets chose you as their instrument. That doesn't mean you speak for them. Kira says, because of your interference, the reckoning was stopped. The evil still exists, and I'm not sure even the prophets know what that means for Bajor. There's a lot to discuss here, and I think the most interesting part of this is I want to talk through what Winn's motivations were. But we got to do it in a segment that starts.
AlamarEmmys, there was more. AlamarEmmys, It's AlamarEmmys time!
Wow. Really something.
It's when I start laughing in the middle that really tickles me.
Always. Always. Wait till we get to the full sequence. All right. So, best moment.
You know, there's some good stuff with Odo and Kira in here. I think you brought up a good point. I think there's... How do I want to address that? You know, I think we've come to this place, right, where there's these echo chambers of thinking, right, where there's you either you agree on everything or we disagree on everything. And that's not really how relationships always work, so I thought it was really cool and interesting how Odo is allowing her space, whether he understands it or not, even in the face of what she would want to sacrifice. And it's an interesting callback to when Kira did that for Burial.
Yeah.
When he was dying, and she, you know, she kind of knew that's what he would want. So I thought that was a really special moment for their relationship, a relationship that I've yet to really kind of embrace entirely. So I thought that was important for a best moment, maybe not for the episode, but for me.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like really interesting philosophical discussions about faith and science and blah, blah, blah. I can't help it. I'm still watching this like I'm 16. I just really like I like the pew pews and the battles, and I think it's really, you know, the Zool and the Gatekeeper, and it's just kind of fun to watch them, like, you know, blow shit up.
Yeah, this is kind of like a oh man, I'm ready to jump into the heresy. But when it comes to this stuff, like, give me my Trek. I mean, give me my Star Wars, right? Like, if we're gonna go blue and red laser beams, make them swords and make them fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, but you know, but that's not what it's about.
Yeah, I know, but you just said that's what you wanted, so
it's
did
beams I. But I like the beams of ideas.
Oh,
you know?
Christ, take your beams of ideas. Get the hell out of here.
You get some stem bolts. Hell yeah, they are self-sealing. Here are some stem bolts for you.
All right, so before we levy our separate conclusions, let's have the conversation you were talking about, like, because I think that is the big thing there at the end.
Yeah,
is why she did it, the agency as to do it, and I think this feels like one of these moments we talk about all the time, where it's sort of a little bit of all of those things. My feeling was that I think her greed. I think the whole monologue where they're saying, "Hey, you're going to usher in that period of time where an emissary is not needed anymore," and I think that is really enticing to her. And then I think you see the wheels turn, in which she's like, "Wait, if there's no need for you, there's no need for me."
Right, and she says it directly.
Yeah, and whereas Ben has a lot of other stuff going on, you don't really need this gig. She do, right? And I think that weighs heavily upon her decision. But it's interesting she makes the decision so late, right? She sneaks away
after saying she believes the opposite.
Right. And she lets everybody get, you know, taken away. Like, it feels like a very much a decision made in the moment. Like, she sees an opportunity. Everybody's gone. I can just go over here and do it. She also figures out how to work the chromatron and chronometers. You know, like, I can't imagine that's just like a button.
Space bar.
Space bar. But yeah, I think it's all of the above. But the question, I guess, which you brought up that I hadn't thought about, is how much of it is the prophets sort of steering,
right,
putting their thumb on the scale.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, it's interesting. And of course, like, we have two sides to the prophets. We have angels and demons here. Right? And we don't know what their relative power levels are and what their relative abilities to guide the people. Well,
I mean, they did wink out an entire fighting force. That's pretty powerful.
We know the prophets are super powerful, but how powerful are the Pah Wraiths?
Yeah, I mean, what's the equity, right? Is it
Like, are they equally matched? Is this Michael and Lucifer? You know what I mean? And like,
They don't see. Here's the other thing: is they don't seem to fear the Pah Wraiths so much. Like everybody has all this like overwhelming faith that they're going to win, and then in the end, it shows that they were about to win. So maybe the Pah Wraiths aren't as powerful.
they're not as powerful, which means do they have to use other methods to make stuff happen? You know, we're just sort of beginning the exploration.
Yeah,
of
sort
this,
of. I
but
guess if you look at the grand scheme of things, yes, the rumblings stopped on Bajor, but we did not slay the foe.
no,
So-
they're very much still out there.
So they sort of win, right? They're about to lose, and
and
then they
they've
get
been let out of the tablet or whatever. So, and we know like that they were the lore, right, of the Michael and Lucifer is that they won the battle and trapped him in the fire caves. And so we had the one get out and like turn into the evil Keiko, and now we have this one, which is obviously much more powerful. And so, yeah, I mean, so Wynn's motivations here, I think. It depends on whether or not we believe she has agency, right? And if she doesn't, then whatever. But if she does, well, if she doesn't, right? Either the prophets themselves wanted this to happen, the story to play out this way, or maybe the Pah Wraiths did, right? Don't know. If we believe that she does have agency, then I think it is what she said. If we go into this, 1,000 years of whatever, and I'm not needed, like this is where her ambition and her desire for power, her entire reason to exist in her entire life gets winked out of existence. And her faith lost to her ambition. And we see her faith and her ambition in its own titanic battle of the Pah Wraiths versus the prophets. It's her faith versus her ambition, constantly battling, and her ambition wins more times than her faith. Or
Yeah, I
has
see it as a
thus
choice,
far.
but I don't see it. I didn't see her ultimate turn at the end really like elevating her threat level to us or elevating her. It's just kind of interesting more than it does set any sort of pieces up for me. The thing I found potentially more interesting on Ben's side, you could argue that this episode displays or demonstrates his increasing faith or religious sort of, for lack of a better
Right.
term, gravitation towards his role and towards the whole the Bajoran people and the I don't find that to be as interesting as was it only 2 episodes ago where he was like, look, I'm gonna do what I have to do, right?
Right.
I'm gonna tip the scales however I gotta do it, and I owe them.
Yes.
They called one in, and
yeah, absolutely.
be it my son, be it my best friend, be it whoever it is, I owe them.
Yeah, they
That to
called it
me
in.
is more interesting because it shows him going further into the like, we got to do what we got to do. That to me is a little more furtive and interesting. I'm not sure that's what the episode's saying, but they did raise it.
I think it is. I mean, I think he is completely bought in to this relationship with the prophets. He's completely bought in that he is the emissary. He's completely bought in that they are guiding him, and bought in that he owes them, and is willing to sacrifice the station. He doesn't say he's willing to sacrifice Jake. He just trusts that they will take care of him. It makes Sisko is such a wild card, right? Within the Federation, within whatever, like in the Pale Moonlight, he takes it upon himself to like change the entire face of the war. And here he takes it upon himself to like possibly do the same thing again, but through this religious aspect. And he is like, people compare it to Picard. Picard wouldn't have done any of this.
Also, and because of that, I feel like they left a little dramatic meat on the bone in that in the choice of their vessel, the Pah Wraiths, in choosing Jake, they could have rubbed it in his face a little bit. They could have raised the threat level. They could have made that a crisis of conscience for him. But it never really felt like they did it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where I think if I have a criticism of this episode, it takes way too long to get to the meat. Right? We do a lot of restacking stuff we already know if we've been watching. You know, like the relationship between Winn and them, and Starfleet's feelings about him being the emissary, and reminding us all these things that have happened before, and Jake's feelings about it all, and I think that the just showing us the tablet that they found as opposed to showing us finding it, took out some of the, it was just sort of telling as opposed to showing. And so I feel I would have structured it differently. I would have started with them finding the tablet. Give us that Indiana Jones thing. Why not? Why wouldn't you?
Then it's more important when he breaks it. It's not just like him screwing over or him pissing
right. And
off
like
Winn.
we know, like we watch the discovery. We watch something weird happen. We'd go the horror movie with it. And so maybe it's scary that he breaks it. Maybe it's whatever. We don't know. And then get to the battle, as opposed to like the battle's all in Act 5. Start
well,
in
it's not
Act
just
3.
Yeah, it's like it is Act 5, and I think that the exploration, questions of faith, free will, responsibilities of those in power, and how that butts up against your ego are all really interesting. I just think it feels a little like, man, I hate to use this analogy, but it's best. It's like, oh, here's all the stuff in the fridge, right? Sort of leftovery, and we're just kind of like reshuffling it into a stir fry tonight. Right? We've kind of gone around that block, and because of that, I think it's an ambitious setup with the Pah Wraith stuff, like you said, and even the sort of philosophical themes with Winn. But ultimately, I think that it makes it feel underwhelming to me in execution, because that the sort of big climactic conflict, it's cut short, and then all the consequences of that are deferred, right? It's like, well, what does this mean for Bajor? What's it mean for Jake and Kira? Like,
well, I don't mind it being deferred because we're in a serialized place.
Okay, sure, but as an episode, it makes the dramatic potential like frustratingly untapped to me.
Yeah.
It just feels like, I don't know. I just feel underwhelmed, and I feel weird feeling that because everybody's talking about how they love it. Like somebody was like, "It's my second favorite episode."
Yeah, well, and I'd be very curious to hear more of that, and I can see why. I would have, if we had started the battle way earlier and had all of these same conversations that we had about faith and predestination, all that kind of stuff, while the battle is happening, and we're adding the intensity to it and the urgency. And, it lacks the urgency that would happen if Jake and Kira are battling
and
this
peril,
whole time.
Right? And peril. I didn't feel peril for either of them, which is...
Right. And like, if you start it earlier, we see the cost on both of them much stronger. Why aren't they almost dead?
Right.
And why aren't we seeing, what Sisko having to have all these conversations and have all these ethics things while he's watching his son die, and Odo was watching Kira die, and they're still having to make these same ethical choices and dilemmas and these same battles, but just happening while it is happening, where the stakes are raised. It's just higher. And I just feel like they probably just ran out of time.
Yeah.
They had this crazy elaborate thing. They had to simplify it really fast. And I think if they had another pass at it, they could have done this in a way that made this more dramatic and more active. And I would have loved that. What I would love from you, sir, is a number of stem bolts.
I'm underwhelmed. I don't know how else to say it, but I still don't think it was bad in any sort of way. I still think it's a B+. I'm going to go 87 self-sealing stem bolts.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I like this episode. I have notes, but it doesn't mean I don't like it, and it doesn't mean that it's not memorable. I mean, the battle is very memorable in my head. Like, that image is very clear instantly right there. And I think Kai Winn's decision-making process is really fascinating. I think, we've seen her make all sorts of decisions, self-serving, evil, just going for power, being slimy and whatever. But it's always been clear what her objective was.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that I'm not sure what her plan is here. I'm not sure why she did it.
Yeah, I like that too, but also I enjoy her more when we do know her plan and we see her execute it.
Well, we're gonna get there. See, all of this is deferred.
Oh yeah. Sure.
So
That's a spoiler, buddy. That's a spoiler, buddy.
Well, not necessarily. We may or may not get to it.
That's going to be redacted? What did you say earlier?
Yes, redacted.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Yeah. Well, so what about your numbers? What do you think?
Yeah. So I'm right there with you. 86.
All right.
86 for me. So
we gave Vic Fangio we gave Vic Fontaine 5 extra stem bolts in this episode.
We did. So really curious what everybody else has to say about it. And I imagine that for viewers of faith, this lands differently than for viewers without it. Which is also an interesting part about this entire world and storyline. So please let us know what you think. Leave the comment below. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/KandM and watch Mike watch along in the world. This gets us, we're sort of halfway in between some of the patrons who feel really highly about this and the world as a whole, which only gave it a 7, which is episode 131 out of 173. So it's below average in the larger scheme. Next week, we will be talking about Valiant. Also, another interesting episode.
That's
fun.
6.2, so we got a month left, folks. A month left of season 6.
Of season 6? That's right, before we hit our final season. Can you imagine?
Well, yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, do you know what else we did on the Keith? I don't know if you did it. If you watched it, I'm sure you didn't. On our watch along, we watched they dropped the teaser for season 3 of Strange New Worlds.
Oh yes, Joshua Cronin put that up. I did watch it.
Yeah. Very excited.
Yeah.
That's our summer project, buddy.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Well, thank you so much for watching. Till then, this has been Keith and Mike. Watch Deep Space Nine. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM.